Rabbi Yaakov, thank you.
Cross that out when you do that. Okay.
No, what
All right.
happened before? They're not going to hear.
No, I understand. Habachina. Okay. Let's find a little start here. Let's backtrack just a little bit. On page 118, if you're going to say, but woman, we see that the Rishonim, despised. They were Megana, those who refrained from studying the wisdom of the stars and Mazalis. The Gemara says, Ein was capable of calculating the seasons with the Mazalis and the constellations, and doesn't do so. So the Torah, the pasuk in Yeshayas, speaks negatively about them. They don't look at the works of Hashem. The works of Hashem, it's seeing HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And, the whole Shara Bechina, right? So we see it's a mitzvah to study the stars. For Amru, they said further, how do we know it's a mitzvah for a man to calculate the seasons and the constellations, or to learn how to do it? The Nemar, pasuk in Chumash, Shmatam v'asisem. Yehi chochmaschem v'inaschem l'nei ha'amid. It's a wisdom before it's a wisdom. It's your wisdom. Let's see how to translate it. Before the eyes of the nation, this chokhmah of knowing the tkufas, the seasons, the stars. Ezi chokhmah. Ubina shileinei. What's this wisdom that the pasuk says that you should keep and do it because it's your wisdom and in the eyes of the nations? What is that? Says, I guess, the Gemara. This is the ability to refer to calculating the seasons and the paths of constellations. We had a tradition from the earliest days. Before modern science, we were able to know exactly the length of the moon, the month, the length of the lunar year, and so on. Like he said, this we learned yesterday, so our calendar never needed corrections. If you studied history, I'm sure Ganovsky knows this better than me, right? The Christians, the Pope had to change, had to make certain, tweak the calendar, so to speak. Take out a week here, take out a week there to make it work.
Right.
Well, take out Pesach, it makes things a lot easier, no?
Come on, I love Pesach. What are you doing?
I love Pesach too. That's my favorite holiday of the year. Yeah, that's the joke. It's like there was a certain depression in whatever area, and the Jews couldn't publicly keep Yiddishkeit. And after a bunch of years, the husband kind of comes home. It's like the band's been lifted. We can be Jewish again. And the wife goes like, "Can we just wait till after Pesach?"
Okay, right. But that Rav Scheinberg used to say, it takes only about a half an hour or something to clean your house for Pesach.
Yeah, that's true.
They would ask his wife and say, "So what do you do?" She says, "I wait until he leaves the house."
That's right.
And so, okay, they changed the entire calendar from one to another. We have even the secrets of calculations. So when the Goyim see how perfect our calendar is, they look at us with admiration. So why should we ignore the stars, right? Before yesterday, we learned about ignoring these things and not being involved in it. So, there's the haLevavos. Give you an answer. They did that according to the command of the Navi. There was a Nevuah. The pasuk in Yeshaya says, "Lift up your eyes, see who created this. Brings forth the number by the number their hosts." They wanted to study the stars in order to recognize the greatness of Hashem. When they looked at the stars, when they studied it, it was basically what we learned in the Shara Bechina. They looked at the stars, they saw the greatness of Hashem in it. We are not to use them for divination, but to see how everything works according to calculations. Everything is precise in the worlds of the stars, which again points to a creator, an arranger, someone who put it all together. That's what they looked at the stars. So that's what it means that they knew how to calculate. They were able to figure out how everything worked and how perfect it was. Kier v'David, Divrei David, the Melech says in Tehillim, Kier shomecha. When I see your skies, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars that you established. It's only one of our duties of studying the created things. In order to be more convinced, that is correct and that's proper and that's Torah and that's a mitzvah. Study the stars, study the constellations, the galaxies, study all these things in order to see HaKadosh Baruch Hu, see the greatness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Today when we know how great and how endless the galaxies are, we just get a taste of how great big Hashem is. That there is a creator, Sheish Boire. In order to be more convinced that there's a creator, Kol Yochel is able to do everything. And knows everything. Shabar and Kulam, who created all of these heavenly bodies. Yesh Me'ayin, out of nothing. And he put them in order. Arrange them in the very best order. The wisest arrangement. Like we say, the obligation to spend time studying the stars and the constellations, that's only because of this. Why are there thorns on a rose bush? To protect the roses? Why are all plants given little seeds, the equipment to make a new tree? To study the greatness of Hashem. A child is born even though his mother ate only bread and potatoes and meat. So where did a full being come from? How could such miracles happen? We study these miracles only to see the greatness of Hashem. The same is true when we study the wisdom of the stars to see Hashem's greatness, not for the purpose of using them as divination for the future. And not in order, says the haLevavos, to make decisions based on the stars. Right? That's why we don't. To make decisions going to give us success or give us failure. But you should know that that's the real purpose of studying the stars.
There is a concept it's usher to do so because we're not intended to fail to determine future events or future ideas based on the stars, but it is doable, and that was like the part of sorcery. No,
it's doable. There's a lot of koiches harads do a lot of things are usher, right? And it's doable, but it's
right.
Awesome. He says over here, astrology is considered a form of idolatry. This is in accordance to what he said before. It's not enough to ignore all the claims of falsehood of the world. We have to fight back. The Gemara says, "Kol tzunusa asira, b'mitzunusa v'yizkachavim." Right? You're not allowed. Mockery is not a good meter, except for the mockery of idol worship.
Your God sucks. Okay, no, but I understand. But like, if why would Hashem create a koach that has not a purpose, but why would Hashem create a koach that is aser, but actually give that source koach versus, look, we know the concept, we bow down to something made out of stone or gold or whatever, like in time of Avram, there's nothing to it, right? But we identify it as a sin. And davening to whatever idols, pesel, is not going to generate rain, right? But so why did Hashem create a koach that actually has a function that can deliver whatever result you're looking for, or at least create the divination side? Wouldn't that be? You see what I'm trying to ask?
Yes, I do.
Okay, good times.
I do. I do.
Jamie Stachvim haLevavos. Okay, but then it's not varik in this case.
That's part of the Nisayan. That's all. There's different things. There's things. That's part of the Nisayan.
In those days, if I'm understanding correctly, in those early days, when there was a Yetzer Hara of Avodah Zarah, it seems like they did have powers of sorts. There was the Koyach Hara. You hearing?
Sorry, I can hear you now.
Yeah,
my internet's just being spotty. Okay,
from what I understand, we see in Mitzrayim, for example, right? They had the Chachamim, the sorcerers. They were able to do all kind of things. They were kaiches, and like Granovsky is saying, that's to balance wherever there's more kedusha, there's more tumah. It gives us bechira, right? But the reason we can't do this is because the Torah says it. That's the beginning and the end of it. Ultimately, we know that it's really Rab, but there is a Gemara discussion or something, if I remember correctly, where one of these Roman discussions or one Tana or something, but why doesn't Hashem, if they bow down to the sun and to the moon, so maybe Hashem should destroy it? Why does he? And it's like Hashem says, because of the fools in the world, I should destroy my world. Something like that. Remember Ganovsky? Something like that.
I remember
I don't remember the exact thing.
Mishnah Avodah Zarah thing.
What's that? Simcha?
I think it's a Mishnah, and I just saw it recently in Avodah Zarah.
Yeah, it's somewhere. I know I didn't make it.
They asked him. I think Rangam Leal he was in the bathhouse, and he had to wait till they went outside, and I think and he said Hashem should destroy his world because
Right.
the Shotim, Shotim.
So Hashem created. Obviously, there's good in the stars, and there's tremendous chachma, and it's part of the greater bria, and everything. It's part of the greater balance in the world. HaKadosh Baruch Hu does give, what's it? Yishari Darchei Hashem, Tzadikim Yachuvay v'Rishayim Yikochlu Bay. Hashem does leave the door open for those who want to make mistakes, who want to go the wrong truth, right? That's like what Ganovsky said. That's our bechira. So Hashem made it in such a way. You have even in Nasa Odom, plural. It sounds like there's an indication there's another koyach, and it's all like the Rashi over there says that it's all there. So if a guy wants to make a mistake, he can. Okay, where are we up to? Okay, where is it? But he says the Yetzer Hara, this is one of the places the Yetzer Hara works to create doubts in your mind in order to destroy you. So he has the ability to make things like you're asking, Ron, make things, it looks like it works. It looks like there's a koyach there. And that's our challenge. But the Torah says, don't go there. Don't follow that. That's awesome. That's it doesn't matter that it looks like there's a koyach. Doesn't matter that awesome. But the Yetzer Hara uses this as one of his tools. Oh, look what he writes here. Writes here a lot. Okay. Even though there's no basis for his arguments for the Yetzer Hara, there's no reason to have any kind of doubt. The mere fact that it's also to have such an idea makes it a temptation already. When people are beset by certain doubts, almost in all cases, not because the doubt simply entered his mind, it's because it's forbidden. That's why it bothers him and his people and begins thinking about it. Same applies to taivas. Most desires are just based on the fact that they're forbidden. Once they're permissible, they're not taivas anymore. No, it's the Yetzer Hara in it. It's the Isser in it. It's the isn't there an English expression like that? What is
So-
it?
King
But,
Solomon, Maim Gnu.
I'm Genuvim Yim Toku, right? Right. That's not English, that's Hebrew. Right. Right. Mine Genuvim, stolen water, so sweet is sweet. When it's mutter, so okay, so it's no big deal. And he says the same thing comes in our philosophy, in our days. That's what he's pointing out. Most of the times our doubts are not because we studied it really, we have doubts. It's because it's also, so the same way like the Eight Sahara takes on a certain aura. Tables take on certain auras because it's also the Mayim Genuvim, so there's the same type of thing here. Like the boy, so he says anything that's good doesn't appeal to the Yetzer Hara. That's why whenever someone has a doubt in his mind, he should suspect it's nothing but the Yetzer Hara. Like the boy from the yeshiva who once came to the base medrash fainting. He said he was full of sfekas. When he passed by a college, he'd faint thinking that maybe evolution is right. I asked, what about when you pass a church? Same thing he said. I faint when I pass a church too. So I said, a church and evolution contradict each other. So, you got to decide. It wasn't because he had any genuine doubts. He didn't know anything about either one of them. The mere fact that it was also made him worried. That's the temptation of Yetzer Hara. Just because it's wrong, he's worried about it. Another one of the great temptations of the Yetzer Hara is when there are many people who hold that opinion. Let's say you live in a place where there are many Ovdei Avodah Zarah. It's difficult for a person to resist that type. Even though he doesn't actually practice idol worship, in his heart there's already a worry. He thinks there's something to it. Look how many people are doing it. But if you look at the world today, he says, we know that people are putting up holiday decorations for nothing. We know the whole thing's a big lie. The man was born a monster, and they covered up all kinds of stories and romantic things. The same applies to the sheker of the scientists. It's only because there are many of them. They have newspapers and colleges and the government spending money on evolution that causes people to be weak in their emotion.
But science and Torah are not contradictory to each other.
No, they're not. They're not. But he's talking about the science, like the science of evolution. Well, it's a science, so it must be true.
Evolution's also not contradictory to Torah. So
again,
sorry,
the evolution that we're referring to is the
way
one that says that the world.
Their evolution is contradictory. It's
You're
all
saying
by chance.
that, right? You're right.
I mean, not the Big Bang. The Big Bang of 100% is because I mean the only reason the Big Bang sits in the realm of theory because it can never be proven, and that's why the God factor works. But the concept of the world being X amount of whatever human years old is not contrary to Torah.
I don't want to go into it.
No, that's not what evolution. When we say evolution, we're talking about the fact that there's no God and the world just on its own evolved. And your grandfather was an ape, and it came from being a snail or something. Or from the whole Darwin theory. We're not talking about can I take the proofs of evolution and does it fit in the breed, doesn't fit in the breed, this sheet, that sheet. We're not referring to that. We're referring with that where you're saying there's no God, there was no creation, everything evolved from nothing. It just evolved.
Okay,
And that today that doesn't talk to us so much. That's the way it is in all the all the years of the world. There are all kind of Yetzer Haras, Taivas, and every generation has to fight its battles. Today, I don't think evolution that he's referring to is much of a discussion at all. It's like it's been even in the scientific world been discarded, I think. But when I was a kid, I mean, even in the yeshivas, it was a battle that they shouldn't use a science book that talked about it had a chapter on evolution. It was an accepted thing, that was part of the curriculum.
Well, truth is, who really? I've heard this machlokas of whether dinosaurs existed or they didn't exist. Like, does it actually make a difference? No. Like, it doesn't make a difference how we're living our lives now. Does it change your life at all? No.
It only makes a difference. Again, if you put it into that evolutionary theory. Well, no, I mean, I know somewhere I read, that they went extinct in the mud balls. The mud ball destroyed them. But No, no. You could. You want to have a dinosaur? You could have that, a pet dinosaur. It's okay.
I'll get you one for your birthday.
Like, can I
Yeah.
want to ask something. I mean, I think, but just my opinion, there's a certain arrogance attached to evolution from like when, or if not necessarily evolution, but any, when a lecturer, professor is, you know, talking or denying God's existence. But my uncle, Rabbi Sherwinter, he's a rabbi
Rabbi
in
who?
Lakewood. Sherwinter, his name is.
Okay.
So his on Rosh Hashanah, his drasha was, he quoted Matthew Solomon said 20 years ago. He said there's a medrash that says the when it says V'sham navacha kimei olam is kimei hevel. Hevel, what's the days of Hevel? Hevel was the only human that lived in the world before Avodah Zarah came around. He never lived in a world without Avodah Zarah, so the air was pure for him. So he said now, and he spoke right after the towers came down. He said now, like that bit of Avodah Zarah, that maybe the air is getting pure. So my uncle said he said now with COVID, everyone realizes no one has any control. They're trying, they think they're in control, and people realize they have absolutely no control. So maybe the air is even getting, getting more pure. Yeah.
Maybe look, we're heading to Mashiach. There's no question of that. You don't got to be a rocket scientist. So maybe Hashem's destroying one more Avodah Zarah, one more belief.
The COVID of Avodah Zarah.
No, that COVID is destroying the Avodah Zarah of Kaichi Batzim Yadi, and that we run the world and we have control and we know what's going on. COVID showed us that we're weak. We have nothing.
Actually, I heard it was like 2010. I was talking with a friend of mine. He was like very big into Kabbalah and things like that. And he said there was a particular Kabbalist rabbi he follows. And this rabbi was saying, like, the gates of Eretz Yisrael are closing. They're closing. And every time he would go fundraise in Chul, he would be very afraid when he would not be able to come back. And I'm thinking, like, what do you mean the gates are closing? People won't be able to come. What's possibly going to happen? And then just 10 years later, now you can't travel. It's absolutely shocking, stunning. I could not have imagined something like that.
The Soviet Zionist Republic.
Right.
What is the Soviet Zionist Republic?
They don't let you out.
Like that, like
the old Soviet Union, you can't get out.
You're too young, Ron. It used to be this.
I know the joke. Look, in America, you watch TV. In Soviet Russia, TV watches you. Okay, that's the way it works.
Okay, so let's see. So we have to know that the world is full of sheker. We have to disregard the multitude that follows these things. Like the Torah says, even though there are many, many people doing these wicked things, don't allow yourself. There's a story with one of the Gedolim when he was a kid, like a more recent Gadol, that the governor, the Gaisha governor, liked to speak to him because he liked his, and he asked him, doesn't say in the Torah that you follow the majority, right? And there's more Goyim that say in Yoshka, so why don't you keep your Torah and follow? That was the Yavetz or someone, one of these people. And he answered him, you only follow the right when you have a suffix. That's the way you decide the suffix. But if you know the guy's wrong, you don't say, okay, he's right, because there's more of them. There's just more of the wrong ones. Okay. All right, let's stop here. Let's stop here. Good Shabbos, a wonderful